full hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mickey.
Thank you, Nighthawk, so much, and welcome to Dave and.
Oh, I can't get back to the call.
And
Well, you would.
did I trick you? Welcome to Dave and Mickey's Shiny Side Out on Revolution Radio.
That's
on
correct.
Revolution.radio. Yeah. Coming to you from Australia. It's always good to have smooth communication. Hey. Home to fresh, unadulterated ideas, conversations in the chat, of course. I'm not in there, I'll get there. And also, the place to go into the archives, which are free. Which brings me to an important point. This is Listener Funded Radio, which means that we, the station, can only exist with your generosity. And if you have the cash, please donate. Any kind of currency is good, including crypto is good. It's all good. But maybe you can't donate, and that's okay. I mean, look, I see a lot of people having a hard time out there in the world today. Oh man, things are getting tough all over. I tell you what. Just tell people about the station. Tell them about the station. Make them listen. If they like, and maybe one of those people can help and donate. Be good if you could. I really appreciate it. So does Dave. We all do. It's awesome. All right, that's the donation bit. Okay, now. You can catch the Shiny Side Out on the air, on the line, and on your smart device. So you don't have to listen anywhere or listen at home on a gay tablet, touch radio. That's my Oompa Loompa impersonation. This is show number
621.
120 and 600. How about that mountains? You may have missed Solaris' show, that's okay. And there's a plane that's over my head and going to drop the Daisy Cutter
Live radio.
on Dave.
Daisy Cutters.
Cue the plane. Yes, they're real people.
That's
Not
right.
some crisis actors in a bunker in Idaho.
That's live.
What?
Sorry.
Then we're going to the Peppy's Big Burgers after.
No, wasn't
yes.
it the first Iraq War, Mickey, where one wore the helmet, the other had the gas mask?
Sure.
And they faked it. The live broadcast, hilarious. They got in so much trouble for that.
Oh, but that's the truth. That's the truth. But no, we're not under Denver Airport either. Could
There
be
you
though.
go.
Yeah. So if you missed the last show, that's okay. That's okay. You can always catch her on the archives, and she always has a great show. I missed the show. I don't know, Dave. Who was
I
on with her?
also did.
But look,
I
we'll
cannot
catch her on the archives.
report anything.
No. She is fantastic. I love her.
Yes.
She's a really good person too, and she's interesting. She's got a great radio voice. I tell you what, she's got a great radio voice.
No.
I've seen pictures of her, and I tell you, she's a looker as well. That's the truth. That's the truth.
And a thinker.
And a thinker, looker, thinker, and she's got a great radio voice.
Triple threat.
And she is triple threat. That's right. She's also a really nice person. Okay, and that's important. She's a really nice person.
She's
We had many
a
chats.
videographer.
She's done it all. Okay,
That's
so if you missed
beautiful.
it, it's okay. Catch it. And yeah, because she's got other shows elsewhere. She's published. She's also produced documentaries. Go ahead, find her. Find her. That's your mission. Should you accept it? Should you be caught? We will deny all knowledge of your existence. That's just how it is. I used to love Mission Impossible. Hey, archives, like I said, are free, so get in there. It's another good reason to donate. Please do. Please do. Because there's less and less independent media. This is media. Less and less independent media available for people. It's all it's actually spoon fed. You know foie gras. Foie gras is the liver of the goose, and in order to get the goose all fattened up, they used to stuff potato dumplings down its fairly long neck. It's now outlawed in most places. You can't do that anymore. It's illegal. But that's how the news is being fed to most people. They're not spoon feeding you.
Very nicely done.
They're shoving the potato dumplings down your throat, if you like it or not. Now, before we start broadcasting in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it's the bungalow.
Thank you. And he's still up in the humid country there.
Oh,
and I know. And for myself, of course, the Dharuk people, which actually inhabited a massive swathe of country here in Sydney.
Yeah,
And we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Yeah, the Dharuk people, they inhabited massive amounts of land. But look, we are respectful and we understand that culture is under threat, like most indigenous cultures on the planet. But what can you do? What could you do? Not a lot. That's the long and short of it. Just try to be understanding, helpful, if you can, and respectful. That's probably good. Respectful, and don't think that what you see today, or the remnants that you see today, is representative or reflective of the culture that once existed, and that goes for all indigenous cultures. Okay.
Mhm.
What we see today are remnants.
Remnants only.
Now, people try really hard to keep it alive, and my head goes off to you, and the language, which is the most important thing, I think, keep the languages alive.
But with so many of the areas in which languages were different in small pockets, Becky, you've seen the map of Australia with the hundreds of small pockets of different groups of Aboriginal territory. They had slightly differing languages, which were bled locally across maybe some neighbours, but from coast to coast across 3,000 kilometres, it varied. It varied greatly because of their experiences were different.
100%. That's look. Again, people
and
are
we're
people,
losing
right?
a vast majority of that. That's what I meant.
Oh,
yeah,
massive. Yeah, that's the that is the tragedy. See, let me put it this way. There are pieces of knowledge which are extremely useful to us today, right? One of them is, of course, forest management here in Australia specifically, because we're not very good at forest management. But the indigenous people they were pretty good. They knew what they're doing. Now we're rediscovering it. But if they're all gone, then maybe they're all gone. But if the knowledge were gone, if the culture wasn't alive anymore, right, that would transmit that knowledge from person to person, then it would be gone, and then we couldn't use it, and and that would be a tragedy. It's the same with other things. We don't know what we would lose. These are unknown unknowns, to speak
right.
in the words of my great idol, Mr. Rumsfeld. The unknown unknowns, and that is also a danger. Right? The unknown unknowns. When you destroy something, what are the repercussions? What are the other things that you're going to lose? The other things that are affected? And the answer, like I said, is we just don't know. We have no idea. So that's something to think about. Okay, and it behooves us at this point in our history to pay close attention, because we are at the verge of losing cultural historical knowledge, but we're also on the verge of losing a whole bunch of living creatures. We're in a great extinction level event right now. The period we're in is an extinction period. Many species are going out the door, and most medicines, as an example, right, that we get today are derived from some kind of plant or animal matter. Most. And one of the most effective painkillers, like aspirin, right? We still don't know how it works or why it works. It comes from the bark of a tree.
Yep.
As a substance, right? So, and maybe in the Amazon, there is amazing plants that are just waiting to be found that can cure cancer, all cancer, right? Like panacea, or I don't know, leprosy, or tuberculosis, or really good antibacterial, remedies, or antiviral remedies, or who knows what, right? And we will never ever be able to find them, because they will have been destroyed. The forest would have been burned down, or the last plant would have disappeared. Because we know that the plant and animal kingdom is full of useful material, as it were. I mean, obviously. I mean, this is the thing, right, Dave? This is what worries me. It's almost like talking like to morons sometimes, because you ask people, well, where do you think your food comes from, or your things you drink? Where does it come from? And because we're so far removed from the production of our basic needs, right? We're so far removed from it. Most of like living in a Western society, we're so far removed from it that, well, our kids might not know that chicken legs or milk comes from cows, right? I mean, of course, you hope that your kids pick it up at some point before they leave school. But a lot of people just don't know where stuff comes from. And there's this assumption in a lot of people's head, I think, that it's all made by people. It's the petrochemical industry that makes it all for us. Look at us. Whoa, petrochemicals. Yeah. Rah, rah, rah. Yeah, okay, just keep crunching on your Soylent Green, buddy.
That takes me back.
That's wrong on so many levels. And I'll catch you at the next ethnic cleansing. But we are really at the point where we have lost most understanding of the natural world. Right? We really have lost it, and I think going forward that will hurt us, because people are coming through into positions of power now that pretty much getting all the information from social media these days, right? Some form or other of social media, the little 15, 20-second tidbits. Yes, education is still there. Yes, some people still get good education. I think, in my opinion, though, far too few. And we will make all the wrong decisions because we don't have the data anymore. No one ever bothered to teach anyone anything anymore. We're not quite there yet. We're not in idiocracy yet. But we're not very far away.
Vote one The Rock for president, as I say.
He's the smartest guy in the world.
Electrolytes. Everything needs electrolytes.
What? Water like in the toilet?
That's right.
You're disgusting.
I do like that the person for props and costumes decided to try and find a shoe that would look like the future, and it was an upcoming company called Crocs. And if you notice, everybody in the film is wearing Crocs in the future. And it's very funny that they should do that, because it actually launched that product in such a gigantic way that it now is the future. We are wearing them. And in fact, I saw a product, they've gone into high-heeled Crocs for some reason, because that makes sense. Mecca, you mentioned something about the plants, and that's where all the medicines come from, and I'm not disagreeing, because I take astragalus, which is a root, in powder form, so it's freeze-dried and crushed, and it's tremendously good at regrowing your telomeres. Now, I'm not a medical anything. I'm not giving you medical advice. I never will. The NIH's own website did a study on 5 different telomere or telomerase producing chemicals, and it is one of those. So it does it, and it was the second best. It's also the cheapest, so that's pretty good. It's the sweet spot of being really effective and cost effective. So I wanted to say, Mecca, you said something about cancer. That I saw a story this week, out of all times, where in mainstream media, where they're saying that there is work on a brain cancer vaccine. And I went, wow, that's really interesting. So if you're interested, you should be able to Google that phrase and find the related story. I'm not going to bother posting it. But I think I think by calling it a vaccine, maybe it should just be called a treatment, because maybe that, it's not going to test well. Do you know what I mean? And anyway, I wanted to put that out there because I thought that was really important. But there's something I learned today. I learned this today about something in my passion, in my field of passion, in my field of research, which is one of many, and that is the UFO community, the community of people, either experiencers or researchers. People have worked on, technology. They've come forward as well into the media spotlight, and in the National Press Club, where they've had 50 of them. I think Greer was fronting it. He established a company also that if anything could be developed, it could be under his company name. I didn't know this, but Sergeant Carl Wolf, he was the US Air Force optics camera guy of some of these machines by Kodak or something like that. He was talking about the alien bases on the moon. This is to the National Press Club. I'm not making anything up here. This is just what he said. And with his clearance, there was a cross-compartmentalization leak to him from someone that was working in there who showed him some things he really shouldn't have seen. And he came forward and spoke about this. Now, he's a large guy. He was hit by a car and killed, I discovered, while he was on his bicycle in New York. And I'm just going to do middle screen for everyone. I'll also show you, so if you're looking on YouTube, that's the fellow, Sergeant Carl Wolf. And then this screen grab is from one of my Wife Files viewings, so a bit of a shout out to you guys. And here it is. According to Fox News, the famous UFO whistleblower died in a bicycle accident in Lansing, New York, where he was fatally hit by a tractor trailer. Wolf was rushed to a nearby hospital, but he later died from the injuries. This story was 2018, so he wouldn't have seen the pandemic or anything else in this modern culture, Mickey. And that's the same as our illustrious, now deceased, forever remembered, Nighthawk, who was the station owner. He spoke about the prepping and the things that you should do, and all of his words echoed in my mind, Becky, when we went through the grief and the crisis that was the lockdowns and the advertised pandemic that we all experienced. So, you remember people to keep them alive. That keeps their voice alive. Remember the things they said and what they did. So, last segue, this was a segue right there. And I spoke during the week, I think, about the UK was one of their senators, I suppose, was talking about conscription being a thing within the next 6 years. Kind of, putting it out there in the media, see what kind of backlash. Yeah, there was discussions, but there was no real backlash, except from the very people who would be conscripted because they fit the age group. But then I found out yesterday, Becky, and I think you might be surprised about this, and that was that the UK, Sweden and Australia have all this week been talking about bringing back national service. They really want to be able to pre-process people through national service. And you know what it is to be classified by national service as, were you a good recruit? Were you the top 10? Were you the top 30 or middle 30%? Are you meat wave qualified, like down the bottom in a group. So if you were going to send troops in, they're not going to be your crack squad unless you've got the top 1%. Then they just work on their own. They work, in fact, outside of everything else. But if you've got like one of those, the top 30%, or let's call it middle 30, right? It's the middle 30, and then the lower amount is surrounding that person in a deployment, they're more likely to get hit or be targets than the person who's that, the 10% or the top 30%. And I've got to keep thinking about is would you be? Why? Right. So the first question is, why is national service being discussed right now? Because the doomsday clock didn't change at all, and that was last year, and now it's the same 90 seconds as it was before, and they even pulled out Bill Nye to tell us why it was at 90 seconds. They didn't say why they didn't make it worse and bring it to 60 seconds. They didn't. They completely avoided the topic, just explaining all the things in the world that kind of makes it 90 seconds. That's a valid setting. But right now, in the midst of this, now we've got conscription and national service being discussed. There must be something coming. There just absolutely must. And this is what concerns me, because those kids, 18 to 35, what do they want in life? I don't know, internet. If you were the enemy, just have a sign, free internet. They'll just wander over to it with their smartphones. Oh yeah, cool. Right? And then there could be rifle chuckers. I heard some of the English kids talking about it and saying, well, I don't get up till 11 in the morning, so, that war thing's no good for me. That's just, no. If you think you can say no to national service, you better have a medical reason. Like a legit medical reason. Not to fight. Because do you know what? I would have really liked national service. It would have been tough. I was the right age to appreciate it. I think I might have done pretty well, because I was quite athletic during that period. So maybe, just maybe. But today, I'm not sure. If anyone has children in their teens right now who've really not experienced a global war, or had, relatives directly, like parents directly from a war, unless you're in the US with Iraq, and certainly to a lesser extent in Australia with a very small group of people who were in active service, Afghanistan, etc. Then no, I don't think. I think this group has been too many generations away from it, and doesn't understand either the patriotism that's required to fight for your country, because I'm not sure. I don't think, it may not be in them, Mickey. I know it's a really tough subject, but...
Well, we've come a long way from the rah-rah-rah of nation states, and I remember my grandfather telling me, now my grandfather was born in 1901, I think.
Yep.
Thereabouts.
Yep.
1901, that sounds right. So he was 13 when World War I broke out, right? He was 13, so he was aware of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And he told me, as the troops are marching, he was too young, of course, to fight in World War I. As the troops were marching toward war in Germany, to fight the French in this particular case, everybody was like in high spirits. The marching bands were playing, and the soldiers, everybody was saying, we're fighting the Frenchmen again. Ha ha ha! Yeah, excellent. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was a rah 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 time. Remember, this was the time still of the Kaiser.
Yes.
Right. Germany was still.
Who took all the white onions? Yep.
Yeah, that's him. He did it. So it was still a monarchy, as it were, or an empire of German nations, as per Bismarck. But the point is, that it was a different kind of mentality. It was a different kind of mental approach to these things, where you felt proud to give your life, or if it came to it, for the Kaiser, I guess, for the monarchy, for your country, for your fellow Germans. The French would have felt the same. The British would have felt the same. Now, look, in Australia, I don't think we've got a very strong national identity. I really don't think we do. And that's because we're a young nation, I think. There's some things that hold us together, like mateship as a concept. Sports is another thing as well, I guess.
Wearing thongs, eating pies, and drinking beer, Mackie, maybe?
Yeah, fair, but yeah, a laid-back lifestyle.
That.
Sure. No, 100%, right? But it's not really a rah kind of nationalism, right?
No.
And in Germany, when I got there, that was completely discouraged, for obvious reasons. It just didn't happen. And I find it always fascinating when I see people that have very strong national feelings, like the Americans. I think are very, still to this point, maybe not like they used to, but that's sort of dying off as well. I don't see these very strong national feelings, and I think the reason for that is because we don't have any strong national. What's the best way? We don't have any strong national drives anymore, right? The nation state is no longer as important
as it
once was, right? Yeah, it just wasn't. I mean, it's now it's the corporations, it's TikTok, it's social media, it's globalism.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these intangibles, more or less. So that's the problem, right? And yeah, you're right, Dave. I mean, is this generation war ready? No.
No.
I don't think so. And
I mean, I don't think at all. In fact, if the competing application users, because that's where their patriotism lies, is in which chat application. Are they using Discord, Instagram? What are the others? No one uses Twitter, right? Or and kids don't use Facebook. So it would have to be WeChat versus Instagram, maybe? Right? So if there was a war, it could be between those groups because they've got patriotism. I mean, I can imagine in our country, if it was, I don't know, Apple versus Samsung, you've got fanboys that would, lay their lives down for both of those brands. I'm making jokes here, right? Because that's where their patriotism lies. I don't think that there is as much animosity against another country as though there was when we were competing trade-wise. When we just were selling stuff to the international market for for buyers, we weren't importing very much because the importation of things to your country affected the trade balance. Do you remember that? Remember the trade balance? Well, that got thrown out the window because you stopped manufacturing anything and you got no trade balance. It's just outbound. You're just sending all your money overseas. No one cares anymore. But when it was really important because the strength of your currency was traded and that was highly dependent on your trade, because if you've got a lot of value in your country, people want to buy into it. So those were the big things. And like making the collective experience of sitting around an old radio as a family unit, hearing the, patriarchy or, the monarchy of matriarchy of your family, giving grunts and groans to the things that are being heard on the radio, would influence you a certain way. And if it was a collective experience, that would tighten your family unit.
Yeah.
Now, back to you in the studio.
But it's the core. The core of any functioning society is in fact the family unit, not the individual. And the worst thing in the olden days that could happen to you?
What's that?
exile.
Mm.
Exile. In the olden days, part of a tribe or a village or whatever, the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is to be exiled from your group. But now we all live as though we are exiled from our group. Yes. If you live in large apartment buildings, maybe you don't have much contact with your family, friends only occasionally or via electronic means. More and more people become. I want to term a phrase. I'm going to coin a phrase here. Desocialized. We're becoming desocialized. So that's where it's all heading. There was one thing though I wanted to say. Sorry, I was off and on here. My Skype is playing up. I did post something in the chat. It's a screenshot I took.
Yeah, I see that.
When my Skype was frozen. I've never seen this ever. I'm not even sure this is programming language, to be honest with you. I don't know what that is. It's not a programming language I know, but yeah.
That's so strange.
It's close. It's letters and such, but it's closer to hieroglyphics. I've never seen. Anyway, so sorry. I apologize, but something happened earlier with.
Maybe it was the shift change making it your handler.
Oh, thank you. Great segue. There's something I've found on Facebook. I'm part of the Mandela Effect group.
Oh yeah.
And people post stuff in there all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just read this out for you guys. It's not very long. And this is from Brandon T. Gerard, posted 12 hours ago, and again in the Mandela Effect group. Okay, so I'm going to share the story because every time I've brought this up in the group, people have had a lot of questions. I was born a twin. As twins go, we were close as children, but even though we share the same DNA, we developed individual personalities and became individual people. And as we aged, we stopped being as close. Fair enough. But after college, I stayed in my hometown, and he moved around the world. Our family didn't hear much from him except at holidays, birthdays, and so on. And one big thing that everyone looked forward to was our huge Christmas celebration. He would call at 5 p.m. every year if he couldn't make it back at our local time, and we would put him on speaker and we would all talk to him. So he would call the family at 5 if he couldn't physically get to the Christmas celebration. A few years back, he didn't show. And he didn't call, so I brought it up, and everyone was confused. They didn't know what I was talking about, and they were reacting like I've never had a twin. I tried looking through old family photos, through high school yearbooks, and all evidence of him was gone. And people were starting to question my sanity. I've learned that this is just something to keep to myself, or else I'll get committed. Maybe I'm insane, maybe I'm imagining a brother that never existed, I don't know. But it's as real to me as everything else in my life. Now, I don't know this person, and it could all be just a big hoo-ha. But imagine you are in that situation, just like this guy here, right? And that might not be his real name. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And this is smart ass that says, "Birth certificate will tell all." And on the comments here, clearly, if the timeline has changed, there is no.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
How could it be? So it's really quite. Imagine this happened to you. And look, in my life, the shifts have never been this major. Never. I mean, smaller things, much smaller things. But that is just something. If that were to happen to you, how would you react? You go, who do you talk to without being, branded as insane? How could you? Who could? There's nobody you could talk to. Because people think you have a psychotic brain. They'll put you on medication. They might commit you. They might not, but they might. So of course, keep it to yourself. And I think, this is my opinion only, I think this may be happening a lot more than comes to the surface. Okay. And people just choose to not say anything. It was a really great science fiction story I recently read, a book. They had invented this door, they thought it was a teleportation door, right? So they put one door here, so one portal is here, and then one portal was in the next building, right? Turns out they hadn't invented a portal at all, the teleportation. What they had invented was the machine that let you go into another dimension, right? So every time somebody went through the door, somebody else came through the other door. Not the same person, but not from that universe.
Oh.
So, there were stories, and this is a sprinkle throughout the story. It's actually quite well written, right? I thought it was just a joke when my office wasn't where it was, or, when I thought this door was painted green instead of red. It was like little things, as they walked through this portal, didn't match with what they remembered, right? But they didn't say much. They thought, it's just a joke, right? So they didn't go further into it. But essentially, every time they used this portal, right, they walked through. The person that walked through the portal would end up in another dimension, and at the same time, because obviously it's a multi-dimensional universe, at the same time, someone else in the same kind of, or a similar kind of reality would walk through the portal and ended up in that reality.
That's a great story.
Right? Yeah, great. It's like, if you've got two mirrors in front of each other, they sort of replicate to infinity. It's kind of like that. So, and I think it might be like that. The shifts and changes are small, right? And as they happen to you, you're not walking through portals that you just seem to shift maybe, or who knows what happens. And the changes, even if they're bigger than you can stomach, you may not say anything, because the first thing you probably do is you'll question yourself, right? Maybe I misremembered. Maybe the lion was always chained up in the basement. maybe there's always a thing, and you just dismiss it. You do not want to talk about it, and I get it, because the people that have or wanted to talk about it, they've all been branded as insane. And in fact, there may very well be a number of people in our institutions that have experienced this and just can't cope with it. Maybe the reality shift was just too big. And maybe, and I'm spitballing here, I know, but maybe that's what happens during drug-induced psychosis as well, right? Maybe the drugs you take, and they're just cracking open the rift between the worlds, and you fall through, and things just aren't right anymore, and your brain doesn't fully function here anymore. It's somewhere else. So these people that see things, right?
Oh, I see. It kind of permanently links you.
Yeah, maybe in a way, right? But only you. And look, we don't really know how reality functions. We don't know how it's all configured. 98% is missing. I mean, you don't have to say more, but the point is that maybe these people are experiencing reality. Yeah, we can't, because we are not tuned into that wavelength, into that frequency, right? We haven't had our brain adjusted in just the right way for them to share the experience with us, for example, right? So I wonder. I mean, maybe we've approached everything completely wrong. We just, look, I don't know. I just find it endlessly fascinating, Dave.
Yeah, totally. That's pretty remarkable. I recently saw another Mandela effect, but it was a montage of all of these Mandela effects that most of them are new, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that one or that one, and they ran through all of theirs, and I didn't recognize any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to go back and find the person who did the research and see what we can find from it. Like, what is it? Where was it? What from what country? Because everyone has a unique experience in their local area. So that's what we've discovered. Most of the Mandela effects are local Mandela effects and not global ones. Only very few are global. And I think that's because of our communication methods. We were able to get information further away from the source. And that's why, certainly I remember my version. But that's extraordinary, Mika. What a great story that is. The Portal game is really fun. We have a gun and you can point it. It first fires one portal. That's the one you go in, and you've got to, before you go in it, you've got to fire the second portal. Exit, your exit, and then you can go through one and come out the other.
Yes.
And that's really good. And my favorite was to point it at the floor and then point it at the ceiling, and you get you just, when you go through the first one, you just fall from that one into the one you just went in, and it's perpetual. You can't escape it. If you haven't played the game, then just forget it. I think I broke you in trying to work out what it meant. So, I saw that California's going to have some really hard times with some rain, make even more rain, because there's an Arctic jet stream, and it's forcing a what do you call it? It's a tropical low,
Right.
onto the coast, and it's bringing hundreds of mils of rain there. We've had, I think one town had 2.5 meters of rain up the Queensland coast. Here they're still suffering, and Mount Isa has seen more rain than like 4 years of rain, because it doesn't get much rain.
Yeah.
But my goodness, just want to say, 80% humidity. It's only 30 degrees, and I'm going to use the American way of saying it, acclimating. I'm not acclimating to this, or acclimatizing as we call it, to this humidity and heat. It's like living in Bahrain.
It's like living. Yeah, it is.
It's just solid.
Exactly, and then that's. I mean, when I walked out today this afternoon, I had done my garden earlier because it was not as hot, but it did feel like walking out of the plane in Dubai, for example, right?
Yeah.
So definitely, and right now here it is. Excuse me, 37 degrees in the west in Sydney. Can't find a good humidity reading though.
Oh, if you have the Bureau of Meteorology app on your phone, it displays your current humidity.
Okay, here we go.
So mine's lowered all the way down to 72%.
Actually, yeah, it's not too bad. The humidity now, it appears, is only 18.
18?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
That
I
can't-
dream. That's a dream.
I can't. Oh, sorry, I lied to you. 68%.
60. Oh, there you go. Rookie numbers, right? Yeah.
But what? But yeah, that's and tomorrow's going to be nasty as well in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And thunder. And
Yeah,
storms.
we're not getting any rain up here, and we're just seeing, all we're seeing is every day over 30, and that's the actual temp, not the feels like. But with humidity, it's just nuts.
Yeah,
And the ex-tropical cyclone, XTC they call it, ex-tropical cyclone, Kirrily is going to move down into western New South Wales, then come through Sydney, I think, with its rain later this week. So yeah, you should like that.
I love it.
But because I'm 800 kilometers away, I'm really not getting any of that weather, and none of the cold air makes it up here. This is just, it's ick, mate. I'm just telling you now.
But it's always quite, I guess, subtropical where you are now, right? I mean,
It's
just
usually dry.
really.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I've been
well.
here every single summer for 30 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 30,
And it's never been
34
like
years.
this.
Never like this.
Okay, let's just put that into our pipe and smoked it with the rest of the things. What? No, never been like this. What? No, it really hasn't.
So 35 years worth, and it's
Wow.
not like this.
Wow.
This is just perpetual ick.
See, that's okay. I know people say, "Oh yeah, blah blah, nothing's changing, etc., etc." And let's just be clear here. Things are no longer what we thought they would be. We are experiencing changes, and if you don't get ready, then that's on you.
I've got a segue.
Go on.
You know the canal problems we're having right now?
Yes.
Well, it's worse than you think. So, the Houthis and their missiles, yeah, that's bad. That's bad. I'm not going to say it's no. It's good. It's not. It's bad. But do you know the Panama Canal hasn't had any good rain since 2016. And there's
Really?
and there's
Really?
the reservoir is drying up because it's not a sea level canal.
No, they got quite a few locks.
Yeah, and it goes up 26 meters.
Yeah.
And there's 40% leak on every single transference up a step and then down a step.
Hang on, are you saying that soon we won't be able to use it anymore?
Yeah, totally. At the moment, they used to allow 40 ships a day through there. That was their capacity. They've got 200 ships on either side that are just sitting there because they've had to lower it down to 24 ships. And there's this is per day, a golden auction that occurs for those who have enough money to want to use it. And they're given a priority. So, for instance, there was a liquid petroleum gas vessel, ship, container ship, but it's a gas transportation ship. It paid, I think, 4 million US extra to go through as a priority patient. Now, because of the low amounts, I think it's 10,000 miles extra trip, which is really dangerous because you got to go around the tip in all the bad water. So they're now thinking of building another canal, a sea level canal with no locks. What they thought was, what we'll do, we'll dam river and then use that water to feed the lock system in Panama. But now the people are going, but that's our water source. You can't dam that. If you dam that and then drain it all the way, what have we got? We got nothing. Bupkis, right?
Who needs water?
Well, these are really violent protests. And what's going to win? Is it going to be the local people or big corporate? I'm putting $5 on big corporate. So
Yep.
the problem was not the 10,000 people that lost their lives during the creation of the Panama Canal, and the sludge that just kept sinking into the channel they were making. But the Americans built it above the ground in concrete so that it was stable. It was always going to be stable, and it's still stable today. Just the water source is going, and it's eventually going to dry up. They reckon if they don't get enough water over the next few years, it's going to be gone, and there won't be a Panama Canal.
That's a little concerning.
The deaths, if you're not sure, the deaths related in the Panama Canal weren't due to bad construction practices. There was it came all at the wrong time. So the flus and the things they were exposed to, yes, sure, that did take a lot of people. But it wasn't an OHS nightmare. Well, actually, looking back, it was. Everything was back then. Even when during the creation of the Twin Towers, Mickey, they were just walking on the I-beams, right? Without any safety harnesses. But they were actually a specific Indian group.
They were, correct.
Who weren't afraid of heights.
Yeah, I think they were Seminoles. Let me just double check.
Yeah, good man. It's
Seminoles.
funny what you recall, isn't it?
Yeah, it
It's
is.
like 10,000 or more
no.
documentaries.
Native American, no vertigo.
So you think for a minute the Panama Canal is saving all of that money, I suspect, right? And shipping time, so you can have fewer ships in your fleet to get the same thing done. Because if you've got to go right around, they've got to be at the same frequency of unloading, right? That's extra.
Sorry, there
cost.
were Mohawks.
Mohawks.
There were
That's
Mohawks.
right. Yeah. So, with the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal currently experiencing troubles, is one's military, and that's affecting world business and the price of goods. And if this other one is climate-based, which it appears to be entirely, right? And that's going to add difficulty to the consumer, right? where they're bookends on our economy. And I think that's going to be awful. I can't see good of this. Unless we get like some kind of crazy laser thing where you can just laser the ground up and it evaporates it into another universe or something. I know it's preposterous, kind of cartoonesque, but at the moment there's no solution.
I agree that there isn't, and even if there were, there wouldn't be. If you
Yeah, that's right.
get my meaning.
Plan C, Mickey, whatever that is.
The thing is this: if you look at the world as it presents itself today, okay, and all the things that could be done better, and all the suffering, and etc., etc., none of it is necessary. None of it is, in fact, inevitable. Not one iota of the things we see going on in the world today are necessary. It would be very easy, in fact, to rectify everything. Imagine that.
Oh,
Imagine living in a world, and I mean this, like just imagine for a second where there is no conflict, no strife, no poverty, no starvation. In fact, drug dependence would drop away because it wouldn't be necessary anymore.
Yep.
Not really. And you take all crime away, all injustice, violence for the most part. I mean, people will be people, but all the underlying causes for all the things that are going wrong today, you can actually remove. You can remove poverty. You can remove hunger. Okay, you can remove social stratification. You can remove unequal education. You can remove unequal access to healthcare. All of it. All of it. Imagine that. Now, I'm not saying that we're all going to live in paradise forever. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. But imagine you could take it away. But there will always be malcontents. And people that have, maybe missing a chromosome or have some kind of chemical aberration in the brain or whatever it might be. They will always exist, of course. But for the vast majority of the human population, this could be a pretty good place.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. That would actually be really good. So they've just suggested maybe national service and conscription could be something that immigrants take up to earn citizenship. I think Robert Heinlein wrote Starship Troopers. I think.
Starship Troopers, that's right. Yep.
And you couldn't actually be a citizen, not a full voting and a citizen that takes part in political life. It also made it easier for you to reproduce.
The advertising campaigns I liked.
Yeah, I know. Do you want to know more?
That's right.
Now, the movie had little to do with the book, but nonetheless, it was...
But you had to be a citizen.
I know, right?
You earned your citizenship through it.
Yeah. You would become a citizen, you're fully enrolled, rather than just a civilian,
yep.
Which would give you political clout, etc., etc. And that wasn't a bad idea, I thought. In fact, in the olden days, that's exactly how democracy functioned. In Greek times, 2,500 years ago, the only people allowed to be participating in what they called democracy were men over the age of 30 that owned land and had been in the wars.
Wow.
That's your democracy.
That's a blue ribbon jury.
Hey? A jury of my peers, I say. Now, it's all within the context of its time, of course.
That's right.
But ultimately, I think the ability to work as a team in a national service environment is not a bad thing.
Is it the cause for all this crazy immigration right now? Is it going to be the thing? There's music. This is the end of hour 1. We have one more hour to go, in which we'll be talking about the CosRev Mirror, time travel and remote viewing. Stay tuned. It's only a short break, but we'll be back with a brand new YouTube stream on the next hour.